Hello everyone. So I'm Paul Pateau, PhD student at Université Paris-Saclay at Laboratoire Méthode Formelle, supervised by Jean-Christophe Liatre and Andrei Paskevich. And today I will try to convince you that it might be useful to relax the rigidity of the abstraction barrier within auto-active verification context. But just before starting, let me recall some basics about auto-active verification to make sure that we are all on the same vocabulary. So here is a simple method, maximum, written in Daphne, which computes the greatest integer in the sequence of integer. And what you can see is the type of this method and the body of this method. But what you can't see is are the hypotheses that were in the programmer's head when he wrote this code. And here, one strong hypothesis is that the sequence given in parameter must be non-empty. Otherwise, it would result in a runtime error on line 1 of this definition. So what verification allows is to add some specification to this method, some precondition and postconditions to state the behavior we expect for this method, and then we can prove that the specification corresponds to the body of the maximum method by assuming the precondition and proving the postconditions following each possible pass at runtime. So we have this duality between assumption and proofs when we want to prove the functional correctness of a method, and on the opposite, when we want to prove a client of a function, then we will have to prove the precondition, and then we will be allowed to assume the postcondition. And the client does not have to know anything about how the method is implemented. And on the opposite, the method does not need to know how it will be used. And that's the tipping point of this duality is called the abstraction barrier. It is the separation between the client and the function definition. And I will present you how it is possible to relax this rigidity at the function entry. Sorry. So as you may know, Daphne does not do the proof by itself. It has first to compute, to translate the program into an intermediate verification language called Boogie, which will then compute a first-order formula that will express the correctness of the given program. And there are a lot of systems like Daphne. There is Prusty for Rust, Gobra, etc., which are all compiled into Boogie. There is also other intermediate verification language. For example, there is YML with another set of front ends. And today I will present a new intermediate verification language which is different from Boogie and YML, that are strict about the abstraction barrier, and we relax this constraint. So this is Comma, which is already used by the Creusot prover. So in a few words, Comma is a minimal intermediate verification language, which has not a lot of construct. We have function definition and application and logical assertions, and basically that's all. A Comma program is written in continuation passing style. It is useful because it allows to encode many control structures within a small language, and also it simplifies the VC generator. And finally, we have what we call the explicit abstraction barrier, which is a keyword that represents the abstraction barrier that we will have to write explicitly in the code. And everything that will be above the barrier will be visible by the caller. So in the traditional way of doing things, it is only the contract of the function, and everything that is below the barrier will represent the implementation of the function that we want to hide from the caller. So let me give a simple example. So we want to verify the function Fibonacci in a comma. So we want to compute the nth Fibonacci number. So this is the first parameter. And as I say, comma is written in a continuation passing style. So we have an additional parameter which represents the continuation to which we have to pass to give the result after the computation. So it is implemented in the traditional recursive way. So whenever the parameter is negative, then we have an error. If n is less than 2, then in this case, Fibonacci of n is equal to n. And otherwise, we have to compute two recursive calls to compute Fibonacci of n minus 1 and Fibonacci of n minus 2, and then add them and pass it to the continuation. Now, if we want to verify this code, then the first thing that we have to do is to put somewhere a barrier. So just to start, we can put it just after the equal sign to hide the whole body to the caller. And now we can add some specification. So as I say, everything that is above the barrier will be visible. So we want to make visible, for example, preconditions. So let's add a precondition. In comma, we don't need to have special construct for precondition because all the code above the barrier will be visible. So we have only assertions, and it is enough. So we want to assert that n is non-negative, and then we can add some post conditions to this function. But with the CPS style, we don't need either post conditions, but only assertions before calling the continuations. The post condition of a function is only the precondition of its continuations. So we can add some assertions before calling out, but here the call of out are below the barrier, so we can't make them visible if we had, for example, an assertion here or here. So what we can do is write some wrapper around this continuation, put this wrapper above the barrier, and add the assertion just right there. So let's do it. So this function, only calls out with the result we gave, and we have the assertions that act as a post condition before getting out properly. And this is the final version of Fibonacci, which on which comma can compute some VCs. This is provable, and we will have exactly the same proof obligations that we would have in Y3 or Daphne, for example. But as I said, the hide keyword can be moved in the code, so we can, for example, push it down one level, so we can make visible the first if statement, and let's see what happened in this case. So we are allowed to do this, and now the caller of the Fibonacci function will see the precondition assert n is non-negative, and then it will see that if n is negative, then we fail, but the precondition of fail is false, so the first assertion is redundant with the test that the caller will see. So it is not required to have this precondition assert n non-negative, because it is implied by the first test. So we can remove the first assertion. Now we can try to push down the barrier one level more. So let's do it. And it will act as inlining the other base case in the caller of Fibonacci. And now if we take a simple client of this function, for example, computing Fibonacci of 42 and then asserting that it is greater than 100 million, then the contract of this call will be to prove everything above the hide construct, where n is equal to 42 and out is equal to this continuation. So we can write the things that we'll have to prove in this context. So this call sees everything that is in yellow, and we have this proof obligation to ensure the safety of this call, which is what we want to have. So the first test, if 42 is less than 0, then we have to prove false, etc. And now, if we want to prove the function Fibonacci itself, we will have to assume everything that is in yellow and prove everything that is below the height construct. So we'll have to prove this formula, which is not so hard to understand because, in fact, the implementation of Fibonacci is only 2 calls, like the client I just presented, of Fibonacci. So we have the same conjunction here and here, where 42 is firstly replaced by n-2 and then replaced by n-1. And now I can give you some intuition on how the VC generator works. So we have something that we call a modal verification condition generator, which, depending on the context, will not compute the same proof obligation. So we can call C and D the operators. So C is the mode to generate the verification condition at call sites, so when we want to prove assertion until we meet the barrier, and D is the opposite. So when we are in the C mode, when we meet an assertion, we have to prove it and we go down, and then when we will meet a barrier, we will stop. And the D mode is the opposite. We assume the assertion until we meet the barrier, and then we can switch mode and go to the C mode in order to start proving things after the barrier. If you want to go further, you can have a look at the paper I submitted to this workshop to have more examples on how it is useful to have this explicit flexible barrier. And if you want to have more mathematical details, you can read the paper we submitted last year at ESOP. And before concluding, as I said in the third slide, comma is already used by Creusot, the Rust, one of Rust deductive verifier, and it uses the feature of the flexible barrier in a very interesting way, because with closures in Rust you are allowed to prove some, for example, this program where you have a variable and then you take some closures and you apply the closures here to the variable, but you have to write some contracts with precondition and postcondition to every closures whenever you want to know something about the variable after the computation, which in such cases is really not satisfying, because the contract is almost 4 times the length of the code of the closure. So I said that the barrier can be moved in the body of the function, but it can also be removed at all, completely removed, when the function is not recursive. So in this case, if we remove completely the barrier, then we can not write the contract at all, and it will be kind of inferred and passed to the map function to have what I mean here is that we don't have to write the contract, but what we will prove is exactly the same on the left side and the right side. And so to conclude, I presented a comma intermediate verification language that features an explicit abstraction barrier and which is used by Creusot. Thank you.
Any questions?
So I didn't get what you needed to
place the hide call keyword on the out call in the example to put it back here. Yeah.
Yeah. So the hide keyword so it is a barrier, and it must be placed whenever we want to prove what is below and to admit what is above. As I said just here, when we put an assertion and then a hide, it acts as a precondition.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want to prove here, so for the color of Fibonacci, what we want to give him as information is that just before going to hide, we have this assertion in the context. If we remove the assertion here, then the caller will have to prove, not to prove, but to admit everything that is here in the call of out.